The Romantics congratulate Don Quixote on mistaking an ordinary barber's basin for Mambrino's helmet, while they themselves secretly feel they refrain from such folly. They are mistaken. The Parisian world of envy, jealousy, and impotent hatred is no less illusory and no less desired than the helmet of Mambrino. All of its desires are based on abstraction. Stendhal tells us they are cerebral desires. Joys and especially suffering are not rooted in things. They are spiritual, but in an inferior sense which must be explained. From the mediator, a veritable artificial sun, descends a mysterious ray which makes the object shine with a false brilliance. There would be no illusion if Don Quixote were not imitating Amadis. Emma Bovary would not have taken Rudolph for a Prince Charming had she not been imitating romantic heroines. All of Stendhal's art is aimed at persuading us that the values of vanity, nobility, money, power, reputation only seem to be concrete. It is this abstract character which allows the comparison of the desire stemming from vanity with Don Quixote's desire. The illusion is not the same, but there is still an illusion. Desire projects a dream universe around the hero. In both cases, the hero escapes from his fantasies only on his deathbed. If Julian seems more lucid than Don Quixote, it is because the people who surround him, with the exception of Madame de Renal, are even more bewitched than he. The metamorphosis of the desired object occurred to Stendhal long before his novelistic period. In De l'Amour, he gives a famous description of it based on the image of crystallization. The later novelistic developments appear faithful to the ideology of 1822. They diverge from it, however, on one essential point. According to the preceding analysis, crystallization should be the result of vanity. But it is not under the heading of vanity that Stendhal presents this phenomenon to us in De l'Amour. It is under the heading of passion. Passion in Stendhal is the opposite of vanity. Fabrice Del Dongo is the perfect example of the passionate person. He is distinguished by his emotional autonomy, by the spontaneity of his desires, by his absolute indifference to the opinion of others. The passionate person draws the strength of his desire from within himself and not from others. Can it be that we are mistaken? Could it be authentic passion in the novels which is accompanied by crystallization? All Stendhal's great pairs of lovers contradict this point of view. True love, such as that of Fabrice for Clelia and that which Julian finally knows with Madame de Renal, does not transfigure. The qualities which this love discovers in its object, the happiness it expects from it, are not illusory. Love passion is always accompanied by esteem, in Corneille's sense of the word. It is based on a perfect agreement among reason, will, and sensibility. The real Madame de Renal is the one desired by Julian. The real Mathilde is the one he does not desire. In the first case, it is a question of passion, in the second of vanity. It is indeed, therefore, vanity which transforms its object. There is a radical difference between the essay of 1822 and the novelistic masterpieces, which is not always easy to perceive, because in both cases a distinction is made between passion and vanity. In De l'Amour, Stendhal describes for us the subjective effects of triangular desire, but he attributes them to spontaneous desire. The real criterion of spontaneous desire is the intensity of that desire. The strongest desires are the passionate desires. The desires of vanity are tarnished reflections of authentic desires. Thus, it is always others' desires which derive from vanity, for we are all under the impression that we desire more intensely than others. The distinction between passion and vanity serves to vindicate Stendhal and his reader of the charge of vanity. The mediator remains hidden precisely where his revelation is of the utmost significance, in the existence of the author himself. And so the point of view of 1822 must be characterized as romantic. The passion-vanity dialectic remains individualistic. It reminds one a little of Gide's dialectic of the natural self and the social self in The Immortalist. The Stendhal of whom the critics speak, especially Paul Valéry in his preface to Lucien Leuwen, is almost always this Gide-like Stendhal of the youthful period. It is obvious that the youthful Stendhal would have been in vogue during the heyday of the ethics of desire, of which he himself was the precursor. The first Stendhal, who triumphed at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, offers us a contrast between the spontaneous being who desires intensely and the gregarious man who desires feebly by copying others. One might maintain, basing one's view on the Italian chronicles and a few sentences taken from the Eccrits in Times, that the vanity-passion opposition has kept its original meaning in the mature Stendhal, but neither the Italian chronicles nor the Eccrits in Times belong to the pattern of the great novelistic works. A close look at the structure of the latter will readily show that in them vanity becomes at once the transfiguring desire and the most intense desire. Even in the texts of his youth, the vanity-passion opposition never coincided with Gide's opposition of the social and the natural self, such as it is shown. For example, in the contrast between Florisois and Lafcadio in Lafcadio's Adventures. Already in De l'Amour, Stendhal asserts that vanity gives birth to rapture. He does not therefore totally conceal from himself the prodigious strength of imitated desire, and he is only at the beginning of an evolution which will end in the pure and simple overturning of the initial hierarchy. The further one goes in his work, the more the strength of desire is associated with vanity. It is vanity which causes Julian suffering when Mathilde turns away from him, and this suffering is the most violent the hero has ever known. All the intense desires of Julian are imitated desires. His ambition is a triangular sentiment nourished by hatred for the members of the establishment. As he places his feet on the ladder, the lover's ultimate thoughts go to the husbands, fathers, and fiancés, i.e. the rivals, never to the woman who is waiting for him on the balcony. The evolution which makes of vanity the stronger desire is completed in the prodigious Sens Fin of Lamille, in whom vanity is a veritable frenzy. As for passion in these great novels, it begins only with that silence which Jean Prévost discusses so ably in his La Création chez Stendhal. This passion which keeps silent is hardly desire. As soon as there is really desire, even in the passionate characters, we find the mediator. And so we shall find the triangle of desire even in heroes less impure and less complex than Julian. In Lucien Leuwen, the thought of the mythical Colonel Bussant de Cecile stirs a vague desire for Madame de Chastelier, a vague desire of desiring which could just as well have settled on another young lady of the Nancy aristocracy. Madame de Renal herself is jealous of Eliza, jealous too of the unknown person whose portrait she thinks Julian is hiding in his mattress. In the birth of desire, the third person is always present. We must yield to the evidence. In the later Stendhal, there is no longer spontaneous desire. Every psychological analysis is an analysis of vanity. In other words, a revelation of triangular desire. True passion eventually supplants this madness in the best of Stendhal's heroes. It comes to them with the calm of the summits which these heroes attain in their supreme moments. In The Red and the Black, the piece before Julian's execution is in marked contrast with the morbid agitation of the preceding period. Fabrice and Clelia enjoy peace and tranquility in the Tour Farnèse, above desires and vanity which always threaten them but never harm them. Why does Stendhal still speak of passion when desire has disappeared? Perhaps because these moments of ecstasy are always the result of a feminine mediation. For Stendhal, a woman can be the mediatrix of peace and serenity after mediating desire, anguish, and vanity. As in Nerval, it is not so much a question of opposition between two types of women as two antinomic functions exercised by the feminine element in the existence and the creation of the novelist. In the great works, the transition from vanity to passion is inseparable from aesthetic happiness. It is the delight of creation which wins out over desire and anguish. The transition always takes place under the sign of the deceased Mathilde, the woman who had rejected him in Milan, and as it were as a result of her intercession. Stendhalian passion cannot be understood without taking into account the problems of aesthetic creation. It is to the full and complete revelation of triangular desire, in other words, to his own liberation, that the novelist owes these moments of happiness. Even though it is the novelist's supreme reward, passion is scarcely present in the novel itself. Freed, it rises out of a novelistic world totally given over to vanity and desire. It is the transfiguration of the desired object which constitutes the unity of external and internal mediation. The hero's imagination is the mother of the illusion, but the child must still have a father. The mediator. Proust's work also bears witness to this marriage and this birth. The concepts so far developed should enable us to perceive the unity of certain works of genius, which Proust himself did not fear to assert. The idea of mediation encourages literary comparisons at a level which is no longer that of genre criticism or thematic criticism. It may illuminate the works through each other, it may unite them without destroying their irreducible singularity. The analogies between Stendhalian vanity and Proustian desire strike the least critical reader. But they strike only him, for it seems that critical reflection never begins from such elementary institutions. But they strike only him, for it seems that critical reflection never begins from such elementary intuitions. The resemblance is taken for granted by those interpreters who are fond of realism. The novel is a photograph of a reality external to the novelist. Observation bears on a substratum of psychological truth which has neither time nor place. For existentialist or aesthetic criticism, however, the autonomy of the novelistic world is an untouchable dogma. It is dishonorable to suggest the slightest connection between one's own novelist and that of one's neighbor. It is clear, nevertheless, that features of Stendhalian vanity reappear, emphasized and intensified in Proustian desire. The metamorphosis of the desired object is more radical now than before. Jealousy and envy are even more frequent and intense. It is not an exaggeration to say that, in all of the characters of Remembrance of Things Past, love is strictly subordinated to jealousy, to the presence of the rival. The privileged role of the mediator and the genesis of desire is therefore more obvious than ever. Again and again, the Proustian narrator defines clearly a triangular structure which remains more or less implicit in the red and the black. In love, our successful rival, that is our enemy, is our benefactor. To a person who aroused in us only an insignificant physical desire, he adds an immense prestige and value, which we immediately recognize in him. If we had no rivals, if we were to believe there were none, for it is not necessary for them really to exist.